Chazal tell us that the Be'er, the well that the Yidden had in the Midbar, wasn't the schus of Miriam and the merit of Miriam. As soon as she passes away, as the Pasuk says, Lihoya Mayim La'eda, the Yidden don't have water and they complain and so on. The Anani HaKavod, the clouds of glory, were in the schus of Aaron, and when he passes away, the Anani HaKavod depart. Nevertheless, as Chazal tell us, both of these things came back in the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu. What does Rashi hold about all of this? So first of all, on the pasuk Mayim La'eda, which happens after Miriam passes away, there's no water. Rashi says from here we see that the 40 years that the Yidden were in the Midbar, they had the water in the schus of Miriam. Now we do find that there is the Be'er after Miriam passes away, as Rashi actually says. Rashi tells us later on that it's when Moshe passed away, that's when the Be'er was completely gone. So it sounds like that Rashi would agree with this idea that the Be'er came back in the schus of Moshe. As far as the Anani HaKavod are concerned, so again, Rashi tells us on the pasuk Vayishma HaKnani. Rashi says, what did the Kanani hear? That Aaron passed away, that the Anani HaKavod have gone away. So therefore, clearly we have this idea that the Anani HaKavod are in the schus of Aaron. And what about them coming back? Says the Rebbe, well, it would make sense to say that if the water came back, b'schus Moshe, makes sense to say that the Anani HaKavod seemingly would have also come back in the schus of Moshe. But if that's the case, the question is, in regards to the Be'er, the well, we find clearly that the Yidden complain when there's no more water. And Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu to bring forth water from the rock, and then they have water again, etc. But in regards to the Anani HaKavod, we don't find anywhere in Torah how they came back, when they came back. Another thing, says the Rebbe, just like when they had no water anymore, the Yidden were complaining, shouldn't have there been something similar to this in regards to the Anani HaKavod departing? Why don't we find anything in the Torah that the Yidden are complaining when the clouds are gone? Now, seemingly we would be able to say that after Aaron passes away, they're already very close to Eretz Yisrael, they're at the edge of the Midbar, they're so close to civilization, they don't need the clouds anymore. And therefore, perhaps the clouds did not come back. But the Rebbe says it's difficult to say this because of a number of reasons. One thing the Rebbe says is after Aaron passes away, the Yidden actually go 7 journeys back into the desert. So they are in the desert. They do need the clouds. Also, we know that the clouds are there to show the Yidden which specific direction Hashem wants them to go, how long to be in every place, when to journey, and so on. And the Yidden clearly are still going to have quite a number of journeys. We know that the clouds also protected the Yidden from the enemies. And most importantly, says the Rebbe, later on in Parshas Balak, we have a story when the Yidden sin with the Bnei Smoyov, and this is clearly after Aaron passes away, and Rashi says, how was it found out which Yidden sinned and needed to be punished? The cloud would move away from next to that particular Yid, the sun would shine on him. That's how we knew that he sinned. So clearly the clouds are there even after Aaron passes away. So we still need to understand why is it that we don't find anything in the Torah of the clouds coming back, how they returned, why the Yidden didn't complain, etc. In order to explain this, the Rebbe says, first by looking at a specific nuance, a specific diuk in the words of Rashi, where a number of times we find that Rashi refers to the clouds just as anonim, clouds, and sometimes he refers to them as Anani HaKavod, clouds of glory. And the difference, says the Rebbe, is as follows. Some of the clouds were actually there for the basic necessities of the Yidden. But then there were clouds that in fact they were just there to show how much Hashem loves the Yidden and how much honor Hashem is giving the Yidden. So, for example, there's a cloud going ahead of the Yidden, flattening the mountains, killing the snakes and scorpions, or the clouds that protected the Yidden from the Goyim. These are definitely necessities. Where Rashi speaks about those stories, Rashi uses the term unknown, just plain cloud. And then there's clouds that were there just to show the love that Hashem has for the Yidden, the kavod that Hashem has for the Yidden, and these are the Anani HaKavod. So when Aaron passes away, which clouds go away? Not all the clouds went away. It was only the clouds that there was no basic necessity for them. They were just there for the honor and glory of the Yidden. Those clouds, in fact, did not go back. And the Rebbe says with this we can explain a very interesting thing. We know that Sukkah corresponds to the clouds, the Anani HaKavod, and yet we don't make a zeicher for the cloud that went ahead of the Yidden, And generally we know that a sukkah doesn't even have to have halachically even 4 complete walls, although the anonim, the clouds, did surround the Yidden from all sides. Says the Rebbe, but based on what we said earlier, it's understood, because not all the clouds were anane hakavoid. As we said, the cloud that went ahead of them. And sometimes even the ones that were around them were not there for a basic necessity. For example, sometimes the sun might be shining from one side, or the enemy is coming from one side, so the clouds are protecting them on that side. On the other side, the clouds are there just for the glory. So again, within the Anonim itself, the Rebbe is differentiating that some of them are there for the necessities of the Yidden, and these, in fact, never left the Yidden even when Aaron passes away. And this is also why the Yidden don't complain that the clouds left, because the ones that are there for a necessity, they have. And then there's the clouds of glory, which left and in fact did not come back. Says the Rebbe, this will also explain something that Rashi says. When Aaron passes away, Vayishma Knani, the Knani hears. What did he hear? That the Anani Yaakov went away. He thinks he has permission to fight the Yidden. What do you mean permission? It should say he thinks he has the ability to fight the Yidden. The cloud is not protecting them anymore. And the Rebbe says, no. The clouds that were there for protection, of course, was still there. He doesn't have the ability, just like he didn't have the ability before. What he thinks is that because the clouds of glory are gone, in other words, the chavivus, the special love that the Eibishter has for the Yidden is not there in the same way. Now maybe he has some permission to go and fight the Yidden. The Rebbe now looks at one other place where Rashi uses this term anani hakoved, and this is in regards to the clouds cleaning the clothes of the Yidden. And Rashi there also uses the term anani hakoved. And you would think cleaning the clothes is a necessity. So why is this anani hakoved? But the Rebbe says in truth that's not the case. Really, the Yidden could have managed without the clouds cleaning their clothes in some other way. So the fact that Hashem goes out of his way, so to speak, and just to help the Yidden not to have the bother, to give them this service, so to speak, to be able to take care of their clothes, this in fact shows a tremendous kavod and love that Hashem has for the Bnei Yisrael. Now the Rebbe goes back to something that we discussed earlier. If in fact we said that the Be'er, the well, did come back because of Moshe, why didn't the Anani HaKavod come back because of him? And the general idea that the Rebbe seems to be saying over here is that there's those things, there's those things that came back that are a necessity for the Yidden. And then there are the things, as we said, that aren't really a necessity. When we say that the Be'er came back, it's not in the schus of Moshe. Like we said, in the schus of Miriam, the Yidden have a Be'er. It's very different. The Be'er and the Anani HaKavod came in the schus of Aaron and Miriam, great tzaddikim, so in their schus we have these things. The things the Yidden are getting from Moshe is because Moshe is that I am Mehemni, he gives them what they need. They need water, so he's going to supply them with water. It's not a matter of schus. The Anonim, on the other hand, the Anani HaKavod, I guess what the Rebbe is saying, is not really a necessity. So therefore he doesn't have to give it to them. Of course Moshe Rabbeinu's schus was great enough, but the way he gives it to them is in a different way. He gives them what they need. And the Rebbe says that since it's not a matter of schus, therefore it's also not going to be bottle, it's not going to be gone when the tzaddik in whose schus it was passed away. And even though we said that the Be'er was gone when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, that's only because they didn't need the water from the Be'er anymore, because they're right next to the Yarden now. And the Rebbe says something fascinating regarding the Mun. On the one hand, we say the Mun stopped when Moshe Rabbeinu passes away on Zayin Adar, and yet the Yidden benefit and continue eating the Mun for more than a month later, all the way till Tezayin Nisan, till they bring the Omer in Eretz Yisrael and they start eating from the grain of the land. From this, the Rebbe says we have a powerful Hoyrah regarding Rabbeim, regarding the Nesiya Yisrael, that even after their passing, when Be'enei Basar you might not see the Hashpah, like in the Mun is not coming down right now, but really the shepherds of the Yidden never leave their flock, and their Pa'ula continues to impact, and Yidden continue to receive from them, even much later, even after their passing, just like by Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Rebbe says this is very much connected to the whole idea of Yud Beis Tammuz. There was the Nitzochen of the Friedik Rebbe, the Geula, but this caused a continuation of the Pa'ulos of the Friedik Rebbe in Russia, through strengthening Torah and Yiddishkeit, all the way up until today. And even, says the Rebbe, people that were so far removed from Yiddishkeit continue to receive from the effects of the Geula ad hayom hazeh, and this itself is ma'oder them to inyanim of tshuva. Says the Rebbe, and by doing properly, when we get properly involved in all the matters of Chag HaGeula, of strengthening Torah and Yiddishkeit, specifically Hafatza Mayonis Chutza, through this will definitely be Zoichet Takasi Mar Domal Kamashichat Meheir V'Yameinu Amen.